Coming up, Bloodyface versus DacRyvius.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Fall Championship. My name is TJ. I'm joined by the Admiral, that's Admirable. And we have the pleasure of bringing you guys Bloodyface versus DacRyvius. Two of my favorite players in the field for different reasons. But Nathan, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I was actually curious to hear why they were two of your favorite players in the field. You started to go down that road, and then you went, you know what? I better ask Admirable a question. So let me ask you a question. Why?
I don't know. I like them. They're pretty cool. DacRyvius, double Mechathune. That's him. But we won't waste any more time blabbering between me and that's Admirable. We're going to bring out our first player, hailing from South Korea. Welcome to the stage, DacRyvius.
As a shot at the World Championships if he puts up a good tournament here, but a good finish here could put him in a nice race for the #1 points in Asia Pacific.
And his opponent, one of the representatives from the Americas, it's Bloodyface.
Look at the bloody DacRyvius' face.
블러디페이스 선수는 제가 솔직히 말하면 잘 알지 못했던 선수예요.
Yeah, so I think my matchup against Ryvius is pretty even. I think a lot of it's going to come down to Q order. We both have matchups that are favorable against each other.
잘하는 선수라고 생각하고 있습니다, 언제나. 네, 이번에 가져오신 라인업이 굉장히 저랑 붙으실 때 그렇게 좋지가 않은 라인업이에요. 제가 연습 경기를 좀 해봤는데 제가 좀 많이 유리한 것 같더라고요.
All I can really do is just put the pressure on and just see if he has the right answers.
이제 질 수도 있기 때문에 좀 제가 실수를 하거나 아니면은 핸드가 차이가 많이 나서 지는 거 그런 경우가 아니라면은 제가 무난하게 이길 것 같아서.
I think I play pretty solidly. I don't really get nervous on stream. You know, I focus on the match.
그러니까 인생을 살면서 이제 이 정도로 잘할 수 있는 게 사실 사람 인생에서 흔치가 않아요.
It's not really enough for me to have moderate success. You know, if I don't make a breakout performance and get to the very top, then I honestly might just go back to doing software development.
이렇게까지 잘할 수 있는 일이 흔치 않은데 이제 이왕 이렇게까지 됐으니까 좀 더 높은 곳에 올라가 보고 싶다는 마음이 가장 큰 것 같습니다.
Two very composed players, I think is the best way to put it. Both these guys don't seem to crack under pressure. Pressure doesn't seem to matter at all to these guys. Bloodyface, we've seen him for some time now, dating all the way back to 2014, 2015. He's qualified for so many playoffs, been so close to that breakout performance that he mentioned to try and get to a regional/global championship, even just last playoffs. He was one match away from having a chance of qualifying for that top 8 spot. So, yeah. Like he kind of mentioned in that interview as well, quit his job, try and pursue Hearthstone full time.
Yeah, might go back if he can't do it.
Yeah,
either. He said that too. You know, Bloodyface, you pretty much mentioned it too. In 2014, he was in Phase 1 for the Road to BlizzCon, and he was top 8 of the North American Championships in 2015. You know, he qualified for every prelim in 2016. 2017 took a little bit of a break, and now in 2018, he's doing the same thing again. He's been in every playoffs. He's now here at Championship in our 2nd season. He is one of those players who definitely fits the bill of looking for a breakout performance. I know it's a lot of players, but I remember him from long ago.
Yeah, and DacRyvius, of course, one of the points leaders for Asia Pacific. Even if he doesn't qualify here to the World Championship, if he keeps up the good performances and gets a good chunk of points from the Fall Championship, he has a good shot of going anyway. But the one thing that strikes me about Ryvius is the fact that he's not afraid to think outside of the box when it comes to submissions. It didn't happen this tournament. He does have an interesting lineup. As a cohesive lineup, it's interesting. But he is one of those players that will bring double Mechathune decks to playoffs and stomp everybody.
He's one of those players who will put Ironbeak Owl and Prince Taldaram in the same deck.
Yeah, and take second at a tour stop
with
that very deck. So that's why I like Ryvius, and Bloodyface just seems like this guy that never has those bad games, which is a thing to fear in a player, because a lot of Hearthstone's about capitalizing on mistakes, and if he's not making mistakes, then it's about lineups. And these lineups are pretty close. Now, the one thing that we do have to mention about bloodyface, he said in his interview that this is probably the worst group he could have been put in. If he makes it out of groups, he's in great shape.
Yeah.
But the group is the hard part.
That always seems to be the case for the person who has the hardest group in terms of lineups as well.
Yeah.
As if they make it out of the group, the rest of the tournament looks golden for
Yes.
them. It's that first initial spot that really is tough. And you saw the bans. Bloodyface has his Druid banned away. DacRyvius has the Odd Rogue banned away. This is what we anticipated coming into this matchup. Bloodyface, he wanted to have a lineup that was strong versus aggro, but was also fairly aggressive itself. It's one of the reasons that in his Druid deck, you see a copy of Lich King that's in there. And so when you fight against matchups where you just need a big threat sometimes, it's available. You know, Druid has a lot of different facets that it can play, and having Lich King is just another one that you can tack onto that if it's there. The big question mark I have in my mind is the Hunter deck from bloodyface. Against Ryvius, it has a lot of tough spots to get through. You know, Hunter is one of those decks that can get there at pretty much any stage, but you're looking at the Shutterwalk Shaman from Ryvius, the double copy of Lightning Storm, the double Mind Control tech, the double Volcano, and a Hagatha at the top end. It's difficult to make it a push with a Spellstone. Those often get stuffed. You look at the even Warlock deck from DacRyvius as well. 2 copies of Acidic Swamp Ooze in there, and a Shadow Flame. That's a closer matchup where bloodyface sneaks more wins, but you can get stuffed in that matchup as well if they just happen to have the right key cards. And then the Druid deck from DacRyvius going unbanned. I think that's one of the stronger aggro matchups that exist in terms of aggro versus Druid, but it still can get quite scary if you don't have an early Spellstone. So a lot of it boils down to the types of openers bloodyface gets.
Yeah, this is the Hunter deck, as you were kind of preluding to, is the most important deck for bloodyface to sneak a win through with. It is the lineup that by far has some of the weakest matchups across the board in DacRyvius. So he does have that opening start that you want to see, but he's staring down a Spell Power Totem, which is kind of almost a must kill, because then you not only open up Volcano, which would have been an answer to Spellstone anyway, but Lightning Storm becomes a removal for the Spellstone. So you have to threat check them, and you have to hope, if you're in bloodyface position with this Secret Hunter deck, that one board sticks, right?
Yep.
So you can get that push. But with Shutterwalk Shaman, it's just so hard to get that one push.
It really is. And phase 1 of that for bloodyface is really just jamming threats onto the board and hoping that it works. There's really 2 different ways to look at the Spell Power Totem as well. It's really a 2-edged sword, where number 1, if you kill it, you're strengthening an opposing Volcano. Or number 2, if you don't kill it, you're weakening an opposing Volcano when you do not kill the Spell Power Totem. When you don't kill it, though, you strengthen the Lightning Storm. And I would tend to say that he's vulnerable to both of them no matter what he does, and I'm not really sure he has the liberty to play around that. And so I think that a flanking strike here and just start to chip away is a totally reasonable line of play, because he's never going to put DacRyvius in a spot where he burst him down.
Yeah.
It's not about really hero powering turn after turn and chipping away. It's just about getting consistent damage online. And so here, when he saves this flanking strike, he's going, I know I'm playing Spellstone next turn. I maybe need to follow up a Mind Control tech with a flanking strike, so I need to be a little bit conservative.
Yeah, and you can see some of the key cards for bloodyface's Secret Hunter. Subject 9, which kind of made the Secret Hunter kind of work, right? It allowed you to have this tool that cycled you through your deck and made sure that your draws towards the middle stages, late stages of the game weren't going to be secrets that were probably dead. They were going to be Houndmasters, Spellstones, Deathstalker Rexar, Mossy Horde, things like that in your top 10 are more likely to come. Spellstone, of course, and Rat Trap, which bloodyface said he was expecting more players to be in aggressive lineups. Of course, aggressive lineups are more likely to play those, multiple cards per turn to try and get on the board. So just an extra little secret tech to kind of give him better matchups against what he was expecting in the field, which, unfortunately, not what DacRyvius or anybody in his group decided to bring. He was very upset. He said, if I was put in any other group, there's at least one aggro player that I could have targeted. But unfortunate for him, he got in this one. But that just gives him confidence. If he makes that out of groups, he's probably going to Worlds.
Yeah, this spot here, too, it's like you just look at DacRyvius' hand and you look at bloodyface's hand, and you don't really get a sense of where bloodyface pulls ahead in the game, honestly. Like, a well-timed Mossy Harbor could deliver some pressure, but, I mean, when you look at DacRyvius' hand, that's the the kind of thought that goes into Bloodyface's head too. Like he's picturing Mind Control Tech, Lightning Storm, Volcano. How do I pinpoint these things and keep DacRyvius from really activating them? So I think with the way that this game has gone so far, Bloodyface needs to think about the Shutter Walk checklist. And so, you know, Saronite, Chain Gang, Life Drinker, Grumble in the pool. He wants to pace his pressure, I think, at this point to make sure that DacRyvius just doesn't have time to play those cards. And so maybe he buys enough time to have Deathstalker Rexar make an impact, or to actually find kill commands and maybe deliver a lethal blow. I think all-inning at this stage is reasonable, but I think at every single step of the way, it's going to be one of those situations where you have a major risk involved when you extend deep into the board.
Yeah, and Hunter is kind of a flexible deck. You have two different paths to the early game with the Beast, Dire Bowl, Crackling Raise 'em All, Bear Shark synergy. You have Secret synergy. Against a lot of control decks, you also have Deathstalker Rexar as a way to fall back.
Whoa. Ooh. So Ryvius, when your opponent plays 3 secrets on the opener, you can oftentimes, you know, rest pretty closely assured that Spellstone's there. And so what he's trying to do, it seems like, is start to force Bloodyface to actually play that. And when that happens, I think Bloodyface gets an opportunity to go, well, all right, I'll make you play it. And now DacRyvius has to answer that. So the Bear Shark draw now means that when DacRyvius inevitably AoEs this board again, that what ends up happening is Bloodyface gets to stick Bear Shark to the board with a Houndmaster attached, and Ryvius does not have an answer for that.
No.
That Bear Shark draw might have changed the game. And the reason that Bloodyface was able to fit in Bear Sharks alongside a Flanking Strike with all the nonsense that goes on in here is because of his secret package. We see a lot of players go with 2 Venom Strike tap, 2 Wandering Monster, Snake Trap.
Yeah.
He's just got 1 of each secret: Explosive, Freezing, Rat, Snipe, Venom Strike, and Wandering Monster.
No Snake.
No Snake Trap, and he's got 1 of the other ones. So making that 1 trim allows him to fit in that 1 extra attack card that he needs.
Yeah.
And double Houndmaster online for this. Ryvius, using the 2 Volcanoes as aggressively as he did, might come back to cost in this game.
Yeah, I mean, he did have some tools that he could have used to try and weaken the board state a little bit and not have to expend a Volcano on a board which was Secret Keeper plus a Flanking Strike Hound.
I don't mind the first Volcano. It's the second one that really gets...
Do you think he could have, like, Mind Control Tech, tried to buy
yeah.
time for Lightning Storm?
Absolutely.
Or maybe encouraged more development from Bloodyface before he went with the second one?
I think so, yeah. Bloodyface is going to shut down the draw, make it harder for Ryvius to roll those taunt totems.
And keep just trucking away some damage. This Bear Shark is
and now
not going anywhere.
Mind Control Tech's stranded at this point.
Yep.
Bloodyface has probably no intention to play into that until DacRyvius is, you know, basically just 100% dead.
Yeah, you know, a lot of players say that Shutterwalk Shaman is kind of a deck that plays itself because you just remove everything and then play your combos. But, I mean, this is a prime example of a key decision point potentially having catastrophic outcome on the matchup.
Wow.
And another Mind Control Tech that gets stranded. That could have been the only opportunity he had. He would have taken more damage, but he could have forced more development from Bloodyface and maybe gotten more value out of the Volcano. It's hard to tell.
It is that second Volcano that I really have the big question mark for. I think that it was quite reckless to do. I mean, granted, there's only 1 copy of Bear Shark in Bloodyface's deck, so
True.
he's got to have Bear Shark, and he didn't see it on turn 3. Maybe they just don't have it. But this has been the ultimate punish, and I don't think DacRyvius is going to be able to recover from that.
Yeah, he's going to have to take some damage off the board, and that Earthshock lends me to believe that Lightning Storm is going to come out, but he's got to hope that this Mind Control Tech fights for the board, but that's just game. 6 damage on board, 5 damage kill command, plus the hero power. Or Houndmaster, either way.
Or both.
Or both. And Bloodyface takes game number 1 and gets the crucial victory with the Hunter deck that we were both saying would probably be the biggest weak link of his lineup.
The second Volcano was a major decision point. Ryvius, you know, we said it, he's not afraid to take risks with things. And in that match, it looked like that he was totally okay with using a Volcano and then using the rest of his tools to just play defense. But Bear Shark is not targetable by spells. You got to kill it with minion combat.
Yep.
And when you don't really have minions in your deck that fight that well, that plan doesn't work. So Bloodyface gets a key game 1, partially off the back of his tech choices and partially off the back of DacRyvius, is what I would call a mistake.
When you have a lead in the series, Odd Rogue and Zoo Warlock are two decks that you probably love to see, because those are two decks that can take wins against just about anything. Prince Kel'Seth and Zoo Warlock it's a heck of a card.
I feel like the lineups that both of these players brought were to some degree just the good decks.
Yeah.
They have a cohesive strategy to them, as you know, that oftentimes just good decks do. But in this one, it's like that fourth deck was really where the question mark was. They both went two different directions. Both of the directions make sense. And so the question mark now for Ryvius, I feel, is the even Warlock, where it's got to face off against the Odd Rogue. So, you know, potentially at some point, that could be a bad matchup. And then Zoo Warlock is the deck that just kind of can beat anything. And, you know, its weakness is constantly getting the threats that they present checked over and over again. If that happens, Zoo Warlock typically doesn't recover.
Yeah, but bloodyface currently 1-0 up in the series. Will he be able to close it out and move on in a tough group? We'll find out right after this.
My name's Brian Easton, also known as Bloodyface, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I've played a lot of different card games in the past competitively. I actually used to play poker professionally online before the US government shut down PokerStars in full tilt. I've always just wanted to play games my whole life, and I think Hearthstone right now is my favorite game to play. No other card game I played has so many smooth features as Hearthstone does. And I also really love how deep it is. Because you bring 4 different decks to a tournament, there's just so many different matchups that you can play. Most card games, you're just playing one deck versus one deck, and you know, you only need to know that one deck's matchups, whereas in Hearthstone, you have to know so much. So I think Hearthstone tournaments go a lot deeper. When you play against somebody that's also giving it their all, and you know they really care about it and you really care about it, it's just so much fun. It's kind of like an adrenaline rush. Nothing really compares to it. I was studying computer science, and my last job was a software engineer, just basically coding all day, every day.
I quit my full-time job a few months ago and was streaming full-time.
My family wasn't thrilled when they heard I quit my job to play Hearthstone full-time, but I think they do support me. They were mostly concerned about me finishing and graduating college, which I did, thankfully. So if Hearthstone doesn't work out, I still have a good safety net. Being in a game like Hearthstone, I just want to be at the very top. It's not really enough for me to have moderate success. You know, if I don't make a breakout performance and get to the very top, then I honestly might just go back to doing software development.
딱히 숨기는 건 없어요. 그저 말을 안 할 뿐이지. 그러니까 인생을 살면서 이제 이 정도로 잘할 수 있는 게 사실 사람 인생에서 흔치가 않아요. 이제 거기에 열정과 노력을 쏟는 거는 당연한 게 아닌가 싶네요. 조금 나이가 있는지라 주변에서는 비밀로 하고, 그러니까 밝히지 않고 하고 있고, 좀 이번 시즌에 좋은 성적 내서 조금 당당하게 이제 밝힐 수 있게 하는 게 제 이번 목표입니다. 이렇게까지 잘할 수 있는 일이 흔치 않은데 이제 이왕 이렇게까지 됐으니까 좀 더 높은 곳에 올라가 보고 싶다는 마음이 가장 큰 것 같습니다. 한국에서 프로라고 하면은 이제 아무래도 금전적인 수익이 있어야 좀 떳떳하게 말할 수 있는데 제가 아직 그렇게까지는, 그러니까 그런 상황이 아니기 때문에 주변에는 비밀로 하고 있습니다. 혹시 네, 저를 아는 사람들이 이 영상을 보게 된다면 아직까지는 비밀이니까 그냥 가슴속에 묻어두고, 아니면 개인 톡을 주세요. 아셨죠?
I'm broke. Keep it a secret.
Oh, he got secreted last game.
Yeah. Oh, he did. Kind of funny that happened to play right after he got beat up by a secret hunter. But DacRyvius, still a lot of series left to play. He's only down 1-0. Got a strong set of deck lists still left to play, and this is one of them. One of the strongest decks in the current format, as many players would tell you. The Malagos Druid for DacRyvius versus Zoo Warlock. And DacRyvius has teched his lineup a little bit more to beat aggro, notably the one inclusion of Starfall in the deck, plus a double mind control deck tech, but at least one of those has become standard. But in this matchup, it should help him quite considerably against Zoo Warlock, who really their only win condition is to go wide on board.
TJ, look at that hand from DacRyvius, and then look at that hand from bloodyface. And I want you to tell me.
I think it's even.
It is not even. This is really bad for DacRyvius.
You can just kill this.
It
naturalize the next one.
Honestly, this is such a desperate position for DacRyvius that he really needs to consider killing this Light Warden before something just gets out of hand. If he does not kill this Light Warden right now, there's a good chance that thing's going to deal him heaps of damage.
Yeah.
Just poking it is typically not enough.
Poking it actually can be bad.
That's
because it gives your opponent a thing to heal to buff the Light Warden.
Yep.
So by attacking it here,
he's in trouble.
He takes more damage.
He's in a lot of trouble.
I don't know if I agree with that attack. Either you attack Moonfire or you hero power and do nothing.
Correct. It is either you choose to use the Moonfire with it or you do not use that attack. And so now with the Spellstone drawn, perhaps a reprieve.
But he didn't have that Spellstone. He didn't know that that was at the top of his deck to be able to remove this board state.
Nope.
But
no Wraths in the deck, so that's not an available draw off the top either.
He could have naturalized it, sure. That's his backup plan.
The additional damage that he took, I think, is unlikely to be relevant now that he's drawn the Spellstone.
Yeah.
Did I say unrelevant? I just said unrelevant.
I don't think so.
Don't listen to me.
Keep it a secret. We'll keep it a secret.
Okay, yeah. Point being,
just DM me.
He definitely gets a big, benefit of drawing that Spellstone after the way that opener went, because if he didn't draw that, this would have gotten super ugly super fast.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Stop copying me! Stop copying me!
Go a little bit wider on the board to hopefully set up for a big Fungalmancer next turn. That is a pretty good draw. Nourish is going to help him accelerate, but he's going to be taking some damage.
Yeah, I actually don't think that Ryvius is going to have the time for Nourish to be relevant in this game. He really needed bloodyface to not be able to extend deeper into the board last turn. bloodyface recognized that, and rather than fitting in a life tap and playing another minion, instead just starts beating him up. And Ryvius, he's going to have to naturalize this turn, or it's going to snowball so far out of control, he's just not going to have any agency left.
Yeah.
Honestly, the twig keep from DacRyvius too. I've heard players debate about this back and forth, and typically for me, against aggressive decks, I feel like I have to keep it. I'm never excited to keep it, but you really need to get it online and unlock the additional mana it gives you just to stay alive a lot of times.
A lot of times you need that swing turn, right?
Yeah, and Zoo is the deck that pressures DacRyvius more than just about any of the other aggressive decks because its minions are fairly sizable, and he has ways to buff them on top of that for bloodyface. So I think Zoo, if you want to really beat Druid, is probably the go-to aggressive deck if your heart is set on playing aggressive decks.
Yeah. Even if Ryvius' deck is kind of teched more for aggressive decks, Zoo is a deck that plays a bunch of 3/3s. We peg it as an aggressive deck, but in reality, it's kind of just like a mid-range deck.
Right.
Sometimes it can get the ball rolling fast, but sometimes it just makes a really big board on turn 4, Fungalmancers it on turn 5, and just solidifies that board state for the rest of the game.
And that's a lot of how most of the aggressive decks work right now.
Yeah.
You look at Odd Paladin, for instance. It builds a board, and then on turn 5, it has Fungalmancers and level ups.
Yeah.
You look at Odd Rogue. It wants to play some stuff, maybe Hench Clan Thugs online. If that gets checked, you have Fungalmancer and Vilespine Slayer. You look at, pick deck X, that's an aggro deck. They all use Fungalmancer, basically, and that's that.
I suppose Agromage is the only true aggro deck in the format right now. I guess you can make an argument for Odd Hunter, but it's just never played. So it's really hard to call that a deck in the current meta. And he's not dead.
Not yet.
But
he's pretty dead.
Yeah.
He's going to kill the Fungalmancer in order to just hope that he can stay off damage, but there's a Soulfire for bloodyface. That's going to wrap up game 2.
Yep.
bloodyface is going to be sitting on a 2-0 lead, and Odd Rogue is looking pretty darn good. for what's left here.
So now, let me entertain this for just a few moments, if you will. If he doesn't attack in the Light Warden and doesn't take the 4 extra damage,
Stays alive.
he stays alive. He rolls into turn 9 with Alex Straza to bring him back up to 15. Does that ever change anything?
Well, he would have had Bloop in hand as well with the Alex Straza. So he gets to unlock the charge of the Twig of the World trees by playing Alex Straza on back-to-back turns. The first 8/8 Alex Straza gets to spend off the board, you know, and then we're looking at what DacRyvius' next couple draws are. I think him taking that early damage from the Light Warden in hindsight ended up being the reason that he died on that particular turn, maybe not the reason that he lost the game in general.
Yeah. So 2 very key turns in 2 very quick matchups for Ryvius that may have changed the outcome.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's hard, you know, especially with the polarization of the current meta, to find, you know, these one decision points that could make the biggest difference in the game. But Ryvius has had one in both of these matches or games that he's lost so far in this match.
And they're very little things, but you know, that's a big part of Hearthstone and learning and improving as a player. Is oftentimes when you make a mistake, you don't even see that you made the mistake.
Yeah.
It's hard to know what was a mistake because the decisions in Hearthstone have such a butterfly effect. You know, one little maneuver is a ripple of chaos through the rest of the game. So, you know, looking back at those 2 games, I think DacRyvius absolutely could have increased his chances by a significant margin by changing just a couple little things.
And even if he hadn't, there still could be a possibility that he'd be down 2-0 right now. But those are the things you kind of have to look at. But let's get into game number 3, bloodyface. Last deck, it is going to be the Odd Rogue. And Ryvius is going to try his hand with the Malagos Druid once again. And I think a couple of much better tools in the early game with Wild Growth and Spellstone being 2 key cards, especially against aggressive decks. Well, Wild Growth in anything. Wild Growth just... It's good.
That's what you just did.
Wild Growth is a good card.
Quite surprised that Bloodyface actually keeps the Firefly and doesn't keep the Fungalmancer. You know, I think Fungalmancer is one of the most powerful cards in your deck against Druid. And I think Firefly is actually one of the weaker cards. Okay, it comes back. Point being...
Wait, what are you talking about?
The Firefly against Druid can oftentimes end up being a liability. And the reason is spreading. You know, a lot of times with Aggro Rogue, you find yourself floundering around in the middle of the game with just a bunch of low attack minions. And when that happens and your opponent spreading plagues you, sometimes you look down and you go, oh, I have lost this game.
But Firefly is exceptionally good when comboed with Cold Blood on turn 2.
Correct.
Because you give yourself an automatic activator, and if they don't have pretty much exactly Spellstone, that Firefly is going to hit for 10, 15 damage. You may even force them to naturalize it, which, hey, could draw you the Fungalmancer anyway. So I kind of like to keep just because it gives you that blow-up potential where you wouldn't otherwise have it. And he's got a bunch of turns to draw Fungalmancer, or maybe not an equivalent turn 5 play, but a good enough turn 5 play.
Well, again, my surprise was that he kept the Firefly, but not the Fungalmancer.
Yeah. But he was. I think what I was trying to say was he was looking for Cold Blood.
Yeah.
With the Firefly.
Yeah, there you go. You just said it. He was looking for Cold Blood. Thanks, TJ. Now I understand.
Oh, there it is. Would you look at that? And as is normal for Bloodyface, always just looks incredibly calm.
You know, he talked about staying calm when in these high pressure situations too. You know, that was one of the big points of his interview. Was he constantly talked about the minor things that start to tax your attention in a game of Hearthstone. And when you're on a big stage, you know, the pressure may not be getting to you, but you're thinking about the stakes, and you're thinking about your opponent, and you're thinking about not forgetting stuff. You're thinking about people watching and you know, looking at your play and criticizing it. All those little things add up to one distraction at the end of the day. And so he talked a lot about specifically trying to focus on clearing his head of those things and just going one game at a time.
Yeah, and Bloodyface also talked about he brought his girlfriend to the event with him, and he said they have completely opposite reactions when it comes to him playing Hearthstone. When he's on the stage, he's calm, he's stoic, he's focused on his match. But his girlfriend is the most nervous person in the entire room when he's playing Hearthstone. So pretty funny that they sort of have that yin-yang effect.
Bloodyface is going to say 2 threats is enough to threaten Fungalmancer.
And hey, get a Redagger in case he clears your minions. You can Captain Greenskin and plop him for 3.
This particular spot I think is directly stronger versus Coin Spreading Plague. I'm sorry, versus he didn't have Coin Spreading Plague. I don't know why he didn't play another Firefly. That's actually quite surprising to me. The dagger does yield more damage long term.
Yeah.
Could you look at the green skin
Even
as well?
if it's not going into the turn of Spreading Plague, your Fireflies aren't going anywhere.
This is actually really smart because if your opponent manages to kill your Firefly, you have green skin to follow it up. Starts to compound the pressure. Now your opponent has to answer green skin plus the 1/2. Every single turn, bloodyface is pacing his threats to retain combo activation in hand, to make sure he's not extending too far in Spreading Plague, and to threaten Fungalmancer all at the same time.
And he's effectively pushed 5 extra damage, which would have been, you know, more, if not just the same as what Fungalmancer would have done if he hadn't. And he still has the Fungalmancer, so
yeah. It's been
I
quite
really
smart
like
play.
this sequencing from bloodyface and continually piling on the pressure. But
it also gives you a benefit of when your opponent, you know, maybe takes a risk with their life total, thinks to themselves, he's got to have Leroy to kill me. Well, he's got Leroy right now.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's always those styles of plays available. You know, I look back to the first set where Saiyan had King Crush in hand in game number 4 and was actually just trading immense amounts of damage into the board. But the reason why is because King Rush always threatened to deliver a lethal blow if his opponent didn't affect the board state at all.
Yeah.
That is probably one of the biggest points in Hearthstone where you can, you know, I would say run a bluff, is when you have significant damage from hand and you are the aggressor. Your opponent can misstep, take a risk, and it in fact is not a risk. You just have the goods.
Yeah. DacRyvius, I was just about to say this. Malfurion on 7, one of the strongest plays you can make, but clearing the board every turn and following it up with Malfurion on a potentially weaker board, and also getting Twig online a turn, maybe even more than a turn earlier if his next turn is fully taken up by something other than, you know, Twig if he needs to remove stuff on the board.
I feel like I'm not sold. I feel like I want the Malfurion to play.
Well, look at it from this perspective. He clears the board, shuts off Fungalmancer, which he may have a read since it's in the far left of his hand. There's been 2 cards that he hasn't played for at least 2 turns.
Those waves are going to keep coming, though.
They're going to keep coming.
He's got to find a way to generate on-board tempo.
Yeah.
And that's not here right now. In fact, he's under more pressure now. He may be forced to play Malfurion in this spot instead. And that's really the dire situation in my mind, is when you are forced to make defensive plays rather than choosing to make defensive plays.
Yeah, true.
Now here, he wouldn't have had much of an option anyway. He's got Arcane Tyrant and Dream Petal Florist in hand. You know, this draw has not panned out. I would say for this matchup that DacRyvius, you know, is typically slightly favored. This game it hasn't worked out. He's never found a single spot to really take advantage of anything.
Yeah, and he still needs 1 more turn before Ultimate Infestation can come online, refill that hand, have a big board swing with potentially even 2 Arcane Tyrants if he's able to pick another one up. But what can he draw on turn 9 that would him buy time?
Ferocious Howl into Spreading Plague.
Or Ferocious Howl into Spellstone, maybe?
Just something that starts to extend the life total a little bit more, or maybe affects the board.
Yeah, Starfall could be an okay pickup, because then he could get, maybe clear off some of the board and get Arcane Tyrant online to fight Brutal. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. This is bad news.
He needs a dream draw right now.
Swipe pretty good.
Yeah. Shuts off the Vicious Fledgling, which is the biggest threat on the board. And
you kind of see why I didn't really care much for the Twig, though. I mean, he's not doing anything. Like, he doesn't really have the liberty to attack at all.
Yeah.
Goes for armor over the Arcane Tyrant. I think very wise. Board pressure doesn't mean much.
And maybe with UI next turn, he could be able to stabilize.
It's quite possible. I think bloodyface is drawn pretty darn weak in the face of these last few turns. And so, you know, this is really a spot where Ryvius finds his major edge, is when he's able to go into Ultimate Infestation turns, and he's fairly safe. I think that swipe draw may have bailed him out. That being said, I think Spreading Plague would have done it as well.
Yeah.
I think that
Starfall.
I think Starfall would have done it. I think the second Spellstone would have done it. I think a Branching Paths for 12 armor might have done it. There's a lot of draws in his deck.
So we're talking about nearly half his deck
Right.
at that stage of the game had some chance of helping bail him out from that situation.
And this is with a double Naturalize draw that had a Moonfire in it, where he's drawn a Tyrant and he couldn't activate. The Dream Petal Florist already in hand. Like, a lot of things went wrong for Ryvius in this game, and And I think there's still a good chance that it can go wrong, but right now it's looking quite good.
Yeah.
Bloodyface knows that Spreading Plague's not there. He knows the UI turn. He needs max damage and to draw damage and follow it up. That's why you see the extension here.
But if Ultimate Infestation comes out, it's pretty likely to pick up a Spreading Plague, so he's kind of thinking this is his last push.
Fastest UI in the West.
Ooh.
The slowest Arcane Tyrants in the West. The Tyrants don't have much to think about here. It's the partitioning of Moonfire and of the Twig Charge. Wants the Moonfire. Grievous doesn't typically win this matchup with Malagos and burst damage. He wins it by stifling the attack.
By running Bloodyface out of resources and sticking a board. I mean, you Spreading Plague at a stage in the game where your opponent has a bunch of 1-drops, you're gonna win.
So now something else to think about here for Bloodyface too is this a time where Baku can actually get played? It's so difficult to actually play Baku because it's just an expensive, very inefficient minion body. But here, it's actually looking like it has some real merit. Your opponent's used a Spellstone, they're down 2 Naturalizes, and you're chipping away at the board pressure right now. You know, Spreading Plague, it's not playing defense here. There's too much stuff on board for Bloodyface right now. So if there's a turn you can play Baku, it's probably this one, but...
His other play is SI7 Agent Vile Spine Slayer.
Pushes 6 damage for Rivius down to 14, and that also opens up Spreading Plague on the other side. You know, Rivius can always just trade in 2 minions and then play a Spreading Plague if he's got it, but then he trades in 2 minions.
Yeah, a 5/5 and a 4/4. Or 2 4/4s. 2 4/4s is probably better. Actually, no, it's just...
And Bloodyface, the way that he's holding this 1-2 tells me he wants to play Baku, and he's going to think about trading in this 1-2 to mitigate Spreading Plague afterwards, but wants the damage instead, and I think that's better.
Mind Control Tech could outright win Rivius the game here if it steals that Baku.
Yeah, I'm curious if that's the play he's going to end up ripping here. You know, does have Malagos and the Spellstone as well.
Only be 7.
I think he needs to worry about his life total a bit more.
Yeah. Malagos Spellstone's awkward because he'd have to trade in one of his minions anyway to the Baku to be able to clear it off. He's thinking, what's his play after Mind Control Tech if he misses Baku, or even if he doesn't miss Baku.
Looking at the Starfall, plus the Spellstone, plus a trade-in.
Yeah, he can, yeah.
A tangled web.
His instinct was to attack and play Mind Control Tech, and DacRyvius said, you know what, I need to slow down here. I have to win this game, or I'm going down to the lower bracket of this group. Just take time and think through it.
Death is eternal. My turn is not.
I think this is wiser. Clear the whole board off, deal max damage.
And don't take any damage. Max damage being 1.
Yeah, taking damage here is, you know, quite tricky because for Bloodyface, I would say that the best draw in his deck right now is Myra's Unstable Element. If that's the case for DacRyvius, he needs to make sure that Myra's Unstable Element does not push him out of the game over 2 turns.
Yes. Because there's still South Sea Deckhands, a Cold Blood, Deadly Poisons, and Leroy. So
just realized Bloodyface, he's got, I mean, he can clear the board off here. Have another push with Leroy left in the game.
Yeah, and not playing the Mind Control Tech.
Yeah. Bloodyface has been on point this set. Let me tell you what. This has just been good play. Every single step of the way, his play looks a little bit strange, and then you see it come together a turn later. Sometimes 2 turns later. But now with those armor draws, I am looking at Bloodyface really needing a Myra's Unstable Element. Like, it is dire now.
And not a great chance to draw it with still 15 cards left remaining in the deck.
The armor's better.
Yep.
You clear off a minion. That's one more step to go to mind control tech. Mind control techs could be vital defense this game. And now we've reached the point where bloodyface is probably going to move in.
$17 points of damage available.
I'm not sure he gets there. There's just so much.
Oh, I'm almost
so
positive
much life
he
left.
doesn't get there at this point.
Yep. This is the situation you hate.
Kind of just has to hope that Ryvius drew all of his big stuff and no removal, which is...
The twigs unlock next turn.
Yeah.
It's a key to that.
Yeah.
Choose soon.
And if the twig's unlocked, swipe is likely to blow you out of the water anyway. But right now, Ryvius does not have swipe.
Yeah, I mean, bloodyface also protecting his Leroy by not pushing all his damage to base, making sure that he clears off one of these 1-1s. So he's just hoping that Ryvius has basically the worst hand possible at this stage.
That is pretty much the one.
That'll do it.
Yeah, this is a Malagos. You activate the twig, you swipe your opponent and kill their board, and then you just gain a bunch of armor.
Yep.
There's still a lot of iterations to think about here, though, so Ryvius, pretty likely to take his time. Whoa, Nelly, that is weird. I am very confused.
Engaging TC-130 mental dislocator.
I mean, he could have Malagos twigged, then double mind control tech, and then swipe.
What? I mean, I get it. The branching pass delivers lethal next turn. That's the key to this. So Myers' unstable element doesn't have the damage push to make him ever die.
I think just doing that, but with the double mind control tech Malagos swipe is also just setting up lethal. But either way, Ryvius takes the victory, keeps himself alive in the series. Currently 2-1, still in bloodyface's favor, but...
Was that the second? Actually, there is an iteration there where DacRyvius loses the game. There's exactly one, and the iteration is Myers' unstable element
deadly cold blood South
deadly cold blood South Sea deckhand. That is the only iteration that he dies to, but he does die to an iteration.
Yeah.
Malagos swipe, gain 12 armor, does not die to that.
Or Malagos mind control tech, gain 10 armor. I don't know. They're swipe.
Just kind of. It's like a little thing like that, and that's again what I mean. Like, that's a small misstep that is very unlikely to matter in the grand scheme of things. Sure. But those are the kinds of things that cost DacRyvius the first 2 games.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe not as big of a scale potentially if that had happened, but still a chance nonetheless. But DacRyvius, even with that win, still finds himself down 2-1 in the series. We're going to see if he can bring it back, or bloodyface can close this one out right after this.
Welcome back to the Hearthstone Global Games. New for the 2nd season, we're proud to introduce HGG Cheer. Cheering is a way to show support for players and regions while boosting your presence in chat using bits, a virtual good you can buy on Twitch. Along the way, you'll unlock Hearthstone packs, new Twitch emotes, and a unique card back, while the players earn a share of the revenue. We'll see you in the tavern.
With the casters!
Good way to pass the time while you're waiting for Shutterwalk animations to resolve.
I kind of just like stare off into a daze when that happens, honestly. And I kind of come to about 10 minutes later, I'm like, oh, I lost. Oh.
Read War and Peace, maybe just write it down word for word, just scroll through the dictionary, get from A to about M.
Take out your phone and boot up Hearthstone on your other account.
I actually wouldn't know a good way to pass the time when there's Shutterwalk combos going on, because I normally just press concede and walk away.
Or eat snacks, one of the two. You can pick one or the other.
Can it be both?
Yeah, you got 2 hands. One here, snack here, phone here, and then that guy starts playing Shutterwalk. And then what do? I don't know. 2 snacks, 3 snacks? You take your iPad, you boot up Hearthstone on that. Then that guy's playing Shutterwalk, and by that time, hopefully the first one's done. Just an infinite loop.
this time for meme history. We'll say in honor of BlizzCon, HCG coming up at BlizzCon pretty soon, is Artosis trying to execute his own Sylvanas to steal a Cairn.
He had a little bit of a brain fart. I saw this happen. We all laughed like crazy in the background. His team gave him non-stop trash talk after that happened. I hyped this game up a lot on the forum. I'm like, you don't want to miss this. It's going to be so cool. And they expected fantastic play. Oh, Frodan hyped this up. Artosis is going to like wreck everybody this episode. Turns out he made one of the most, iconic misplays of all time. As everyone spammed, PM'd me and said, what? And I won't say the rest of that phrase. Was that? I'm like, this is not what you wanted? Are you not entertained?
It's an old one, but a good one. The way he looks at the camera after he enrages his Sylvanas and tries to execute it, he just slowly turns and is like, It was golden, and it was a meme that hopefully will live on for a very long time to come. We hope this episode of meme history
makes Hearthstone
help to make Hearthstone a more inclusive place for all. Welcome back, everybody, to the Fall Championship, live from the Blizzard Arena in Los Angeles, California. I'm TJ, once again joined by the Admiral. That's Admirable.
Yo.
bloodyface currently 2-1 up in the series versus Ryvius in this initial match. And it's been a tough one for Ryvius so far. Tough road.
I'll tell you what, in terms of just how they look, the pressure, bloodyface has been about the same the entire time. Ryvius is constantly taking deep breaths, and he's sighing, his head in his hands, and he's looking very stressed over the decisions that he's having to make.
I literally don't think bloodyface has moved. Except for his hand, because he has to. Oh, there it is. That's the first time.
Pretty good opening hand for bloodyface. Coin Hench Clan and Coin Vicious Fledgling available. And in this matchup, you can find yourself in some unique situations where board clears are concerned. Oftentimes, Hench Clan Thug gets right outside of the range, stuff like Lightning Storm, and that puts a lot of pressure on your opponent. One of the key factors to think about is maximizing damage. That's why the South Sea deckhand here over the Argent Squire. So the next turn is really the big one, the Vicious Fledgling or the Hench Clan Thug. And in playoffs, I saw Firebat in a very similar situation to this, and he ended up coining a Vicious Fledgling. And he went, I threw that game. That Vicious Fledgling cost me the game. Yeah, it definitely did. You play the Hench Clan Thug, and you start whacking them. You make it bigger. It gets bigger every turn.
Well, so does Vicious Fledgling. Sometimes.
Sort of. Yeah. Yes, sometimes. The Hench Clan Thug just always does.
There is little time.
You gotta smack it. Those Uther commercials got me every time.
Me too. Like the choice by bloodyface to play the South Sea deckhand on turn 1 as opposed to the Archer Squire. Just more damage. Built that Earth Shock.
So when you see the Glacial, that's where things can start changing.
Yeah.
The South Sea deckhand, I think, really put Ryvius in a tough spot. The totem is just going to get wiped off board by the deckhand pretty much every single time.
So many.
So he needs to present something that can start fighting back. Now bloodyface questions playing the Hench Clan Thug in this situation. Earthshock will now kill the Hench Clan Thug. End of story. It'll kill Vicious Fledgling. End of story.
And then if he makes the decision to not play a 3-drop, does he dagger up to boost up the Hench Clan Thug next turn and South Sea deckhand potentially clear something off? Or does he go with 1-drops?
Deckhand him. Love the coin here. This matchup is so much less about being able to land Bile Spines and SI7 agents and so much more about forcing your opponent into a tough spot. All these little effects that Ryvius is going to play, they're going to feel like mini shield blocks. They're going to pull some damage from bloodyface. He's going to draw a card. That really is, I'd say, most of the game plan for DacRyvius this game. And so bloodyface just has to find a way to threat check without playing too far into Ryvius' hand, and ultimately do it prior to a Hagatha landing. A lot of times that just means you have to take the risk. You're going to look at your hand and go, there is no way that I can beat a Volcano. It's just not going to happen. The timing is not right. You're hoping that situation doesn't come up, but you don't really have too much control over that. Don't like it. And you know I don't like it.
I'll play devil's advocate here and say, I love it.
Well, it does have Cold Blood.
Cold Blood's good.
This is a lot of pressure.
You know what's also good? Cold Blood on a minion that gets Wind Fury. Sometimes.
It's the one reason I do like it, is that I think if he had not drawn the Cold Blood, he probably would have gone with Hedge Clan Thug here.
So do you like it or do you not like it?
I don't like it. I told you that.
But in some ways you do.
I wouldn't say some way. In one way I do.
Battle Frog?
I don't know. You know, this is one of those turns where you look down and it's like Lightning Storm you're vulnerable to.
Volcano.
Volcano, Mind Control Tech. Like almost anything you do, you're going to be vulnerable to something.
Mind Control Tech, you can spread the power by Cold Blooding the Frog.
At that same time, though, you also increase your opponent's average impact.
Sure, yeah. Kind of two ways to look at it in that sense.
The impact, I think, is quite small either way, unless it's a Hench Clan Thug that gets stolen. Because you can just dagger into it. Bloodyface is not concerned about his own life total whatsoever. And the way that Ryvius reacts there, if Bloodyface is paying attention, he can really know that there's probably not Volcano if your opponent reacts that way.
Engaging TC-130 until
Big steal from Ryvius. Whew.
And that's just the biggest of steals.
That is the biggest of steals.
Because now Bloodyface has to put so much damage into this Hench Clan Thug to make sure that he protects his other Hench Clan Thug. It only pushes 2 on this turn with the South Sea Deckhand, so that really hinders his ability to get on the board.
If Bloodyface had gone for Hench Clan Thug first, it would have gotten hexed. And then he would have had Hench Clan Thug, which would have gotten stolen. And then he would have had Vicious Fledgling here, which would have died to the Mind Control Tech. Once again, Bloodyface is a genius and I'm stupid.
Yeah.
And Ryvius has swung the board so much at this point that I'm actually not quite sure Bloodyface finds himself getting footing again without a major draw right here as well.
Yeah, he's also got Hagatha in 2 turns time. Gonna clear off just about everything, if not gonna weaken enough and gain enough armor and give you enough value to be able to finish this game. So, I mean, we were worried about Secret Hunter in Bloodyface's lineup versus Ryvius, but that picked up and went easily. And now it's Odd Rogue that just seems to be struggling. And Odd Rogue didn't even have that poor of matchups, to be honest.
The Druid one is quite bad.
Yeah.
And the Shaman one, I wouldn't say is good. It's the Warlock where he finds like his bread and butter matchup with Odd Rogue.
Yeah.
You know, all the matchups are winnable, but it's a very tight margin, except for the even Warlock on Ryvius' side. You know, that's one where you're typically pretty happy to see it on the other side of the table. This one, you know, this is the reason that Mind Control Tech is in these decks, is they need that one extra layer of defense that can swing a game. It's so much less about having like a Tar Creeper to get in the way, or, you know, a Serenite Chain Gang to block something, and it's more about the swing that happens on the board. Yeah, Bloodyface has to go back to playing for advantage in terms of number of cards. That's just the last spot you want to be in with this deck. And he goes, yeah, never mind. He does 5 damage. That was going to be the first play I really criticized on Bloodyface's head, and he decides to go face.
5 damage is a lot to sing it to a man to him. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
But DacRyvius still, until next turn, lacks defensive tools. He's going to go up to 16 with a Life Drinker, which is almost certainly going to come down here. And he'll be staring at, from his perspective, 8 damage on board.
Yeah, it is still a very scary situation for Ryvius. He's not out of the water yet. He needs to get some damage into the Hench Clan Thug for the Hagatha to be an impact, and Bloodyface has Vile Spine, and he's got Deadly Poison to offset that. So I actually think that DacRyvius is in a pretty major amount of trouble here despite the mind control tech.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is because he could not find a follow-up onto the Hench Clan Thug.
Ooh, Leroy here is actually lethal damage. I saw 5-drop with a slightly red portrait. Got a little bit excited. But nope, just a giggling inventor. Sometimes.
I wonder.
Giggling inventor does protect the Hench Clan Thug.
I do.
Quite effectively.
It does, and I think that Bloodyface also might be in the idea of still maybe trying to trim the board a little bit more. Because if you can't have Ryvius connect into the Hench Clan Thug, it means that Hagatha is not going to work. But almost any stage, the Hagatha is going to have a big impact.
Well, Hagatha's not really going to have that. If you played the Giggling Inventor, he doesn't have enough tax to get through in order to damage the Hench Clan Thug, and the Hench Clan Thug would live.
Well, this prevents the Hagatha as well.
Oh, but also puts more power onto the board.
Right, and so in this situation, it's looking like Ryvius needs to actually have like a real board clear here, like a Volcano, for instance, which he happens to have. And so if that happens, Bloodyface has a Divine Shield minion that's going to die this turn, but he loads up 2 more on the following turn. So those live through the Hagatha, and then he gets Fungal Mancer chances. Like, Bloodyface has been accounting for every single possibility that can come up in these games so far.
What to do?
I think that's one of the reasons that Ryvius has been having such a tough time is Bloodyface is just playing very good Hearthstone right now.
What to do?
Tauntona would be a pretty big role here, I think.
Yeah, it usually is. Whoa, he's thinking about the Zola? I don't believe he's thinking about that.
What would a 2-2 fight against that you would absolutely have to kill? Keep in mind, Hagatha, lock next turn. He's got 9 mana, 2 are overloaded. So he's got to rely on this Serenade Chain Gang to get through.
Yeah, I mean, you want a chance at the taunt.
Leroy still an out. Fungal Boy.
But this is the kind of situation that Bloodyface had prepared for, was doing this.
So I think he's counting it right now. If he...
Well, it's like, do you hold the Deadly Poison this turn?
Yeah, I think that's what he's talking about.
Like,
that's what he's thinking.
Like, SI7 agent, would that make a difference? Should I even attack?
Ryvius down to 5. Healing.
Oh boy, huge draw for Ryvius. And that greatly extends his window of opportunity. And you see him just take a swig of water and kind of sit up after that. You feel very comfortable, but Myra's Unstable Element gets drawn for Bloodyface. This is crazy.
So now the question is, do you fungal this turn and take the immediate value, or do you just go straight up?
I think you Fungal Mancer here, and you use the dagger and you use the Giggling Inventor here.
Yeah.
And the big reason for me is that you have 2 3/4s on board.
Well, he still have 2 3/4s on board. No, because one of the, if he uses that, then he'd have a 1/2. He'd only have 1 3/4. This way he gets 2 3/4s. They stick. +1 has Divine Shield.
Yeah, that's smart.
Because the other Annoyertronic would
see,
just be a normal 1/2.
That is also, now Ryvius actually just has a threat of maybe killing Bloodyface.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still a ways off. I mean, he's got 6 damage.
He'll go to 17 and put Bloodyface to 9.
Yeah.
And then the second Life Drinker plus the Zola plus another Life Drinker would put him at 3. So the Grumble possibly does not fend off the board enough this turn.
Yeah.
But what's the Hagatha doing?
Wow. Moves off a 2/2, puts him to 19.
But there's nothing in the hand to follow up though. And now Myra's is going to get played. Ryvius is in dire trouble in this spot. Despite the clears and despite the mind control tech, bloodyface has partitioned his resources picture perfectly to get to this point.
He's going to take the extra card instead of the potential 2 damage from SI7 because he knows that once you play Myers, you're on a clock. And that extra card.
Blood, Leroy, that's all the goods right there.
That's 8, 12.
Ryvius is going to need
14.
Major help to win this game.
Yeah. Not enough.
Step 1. Nope.
He needed to heal and remove the board or hope that his opponent didn't get Leroy out of the Myras.
Yeah. All of those circumstances are quite unlikely.
Yeah.
And bloodyface with just absolutely some of the strongest odd rogue play that I think I've seen all year long in tournament play. Finds himself a little bit lucky and just eliminates the Shaman off the board from this spot. I mean, this was just like crazy how bad it looked for bloodyface in this game, but maximizing every point of damage and every single point of minion health possible in this one.
Yeah.
Just brilliant.
Very nicely played, and Ryvius will have to fight his way through the lower bracket of the group of bloodyface. I mean, we talked about it. The group stage is probably the hardest part of the tournament for him if you look at his lineup. So if he makes it out, and now he seems like he's in a pretty good position to do so, then we might be looking at a world championship competitor. Fantastic play.
It's been a long time coming, I think. Bloodyface has been right on the cusp of having those opportunities.
Yeah.
This is the closest he's been, and I don't believe that he's ever going to even have a shred of doubt where it comes to maximizing that. He doesn't want to waste this one.
Yeah, and he was chosen by Cora as the prediction to win the whole thing, and funnily enough, he's standing by on stage with Cora.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit better about that prediction now. Bloodyface, congratulations. Admirable called that final game some of the finest odd rogue play that he has seen all year. Talk to us a little bit about what was your mentality going into that series, because based on lineups, you are a little bit unfavored in your group.
Yeah, definitely. I knew I was unfavored. I don't want to talk too much about my strategy because I might play against Ryvius again. But, you know, when you're unfavored, all you can really do is just try and make the best decisions and hope that things work out.
Your decisions, particularly the way that you partition your resources as an aggro player was very impressive. Clearly, Admirable was blown away by your level of play. So congratulations again. Very, very strong showing in the first series, especially as a player coming from the U.S. that the folks at home may not know much about. But you said that you actually quit your job as a software developer to pursue Hearthstone full time. Is there a lot of pressure on you to perform well at this tournament?
Not particularly a lot of pressure. I mean, it would be amazing if I did well, but even if I don't do well, I think there's still a lot of Hearthstone tournaments I can participate in. So, you know, not a ton of pressure, but I would love to win.
I mean, you are one of the most calm and collected guys that we have seen sitting in those hot seats in the entirety of Hearthstone. You have a very stoic face, and selfishly, I picked you to advance to the World Championships because bloodyface is on my friends list. Whenever I'm online, you are playing, and you are constantly in top 10, top 5 legend. I mean, for the folks at home who may not know much about you, tell them a little bit about your Hearthstone history and how you got to this point.
Well, I mean, I've played on and off since basically Hearthstone's come out, but I was going to school, so I couldn't play competitively, so it was mostly just on the side. So now that I finally saved up enough money, I could actually start doing it full time. But yeah, I mean, I just practice a ton on ladder, do a ton of theory crafting as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
He's an absolute force to be reckoned with, guys, and I'm really glad that we're starting to see some of what you have to offer in the Hearthstone world. So congratulations again. Best of luck. You are going to be playing in the winner's match for Group A later on today against Sintalal. That's going to be it for this match. Let's go ahead and send it back over to the casters and get our fourth match.